To see your animation play at exactly the frame rate that you want, you have to render it out, because if you play this inside Photoshop, it doesn't do like a very good job of playing it at 24 frames per second. That's more like half of that. It gives you a rough feeling for the flow of the movement, but not the actual precise frame rate. So let's do a very quick render. We go File, Export, Render Video. And we need to make sure that we have Adobe Media Encoder selected, and you'll see the file name will go to MP4. You can change this file name to whatever you like. I'm going with the default. You can select the folder from here. I have chosen my desktop. H.264 is a really nice codec. You won't go far wrong with that. 1920 by 1080. The document frame rate, I'm going to go with 24 because 24 frames per second is the timing that I want. So with that done, we can hit render. And here we have the video on the desktop. It looks snappy, it's sharp, it's exactly the timing I had in my mind when I had this thing set up at the thumbnail stage. So this is really nice. I'd like to show you a slightly different way of exporting the animation, which gives you more control. What you can do is export the animation on layers, and this is really powerful. So what we would do in this case would be, we'll hide everything. Now notice here, the blue has not been disappeared as it should from there. That's because it's padlocked. So I'm going to double click on that, click OK. So now it's a regular layer, call it a background. And now it can go on or off as we need. I want to save this as a PNG. Let's just do that. So we go File, Save As, and in the Exercise Files folder, I'm going to save this as a PNG, call it background, click OK. I'll do the same thing with the overlay, File, Save As, and again, I'll save this in the render sequence folder. I'll call this one overlay. And the next step will be to export separate image sequences for the color layer and the line layer. Let's do the color layer first. We will go File, Export, Render Video. So this time we'll select Photoshop Image Sequence. Be sure you select PNG. You're on 24 FPS. And the alpha channel will be straight and unmatted, and that way the transparency will be rendered. We need to make sure we're also rendering it in the right folder. Select the same folder as the other images. It's in my render sequence folder. I'm rendering the color layer, so we'll call this color_render. Switch that off, and we'll do the same thing for the line layer. File, Export, Render Video, and this will be line_, same thing, PNG. Settings are fine, 24 FPS, alpha channel will be straight unmatted, render that. This is not an After Effects tutorial, but I'm going to show you how this would then be composited inside After Effects. If you have a different video editing program, the process will be roughly the same. So I'm going to click on here, and this is my folder where I've sent all of the images. Bring in the background. I'll just click on the first color image. It brings it in as a PNG sequence. I will bring in the line from 0, and it brings it in as a PNG sequence. And I'll bring in the overlay. And now we have these 4 layers. I'm going to select the line layer and just make a new composition. And now if I play this, beautiful. I have the animation in there. It's got the same properties, 1920 by 1080. This has got a 30 FPS frame rate. So let's be sure we fix that. Actually, what I will do is delete that composition, and I will go Interpret Footage, Main, and this will be a common issue to watch out in whatever software you use. It might not know that the image sequence is in 24. Click OK. Same thing with color, Interpret Footage, Main, 24. And now I can make a new composition, and now it's got 1920 by 1080, 24 FPS. Beautiful. I'm inside the composition. Let's rename it too so we don't get lost in here. And we'll call it head turn. I've got the line layer. I want to bring the color layer in, drop it in behind. Very nice. And I've got the background. I'll just drop it in below. And I've got the overlay, drop it in on top. Now I have all of the animation rebuilt layer by layer inside After Effects. So the entire animation has now been rebuilt in After Effects. I have access to all of the After Effects filters, which are extremely powerful. So if you want to do shadows, 3D lighting on the animation, all of that now can be done inside After Effects. If for now, all you're doing is animating in Photoshop, the first render from Photoshop will be fine also.